Welcome to Seahawks Forever, powered by Fast Fashion Brewing. If you're ever down in Sodo, it's on First Avenue across the street from Showbox Sodo. Hop in there, ask for Matt Storm, tell him Dan sent you, and try a Rain Man Hazy Pale, modeled after and made in collaboration with, you guessed it, Sean Kemp of the Sonics. They make great beer down there. Swing by and check them out. Happy to have them as a sponsor of the show. Also, happy to have our guest today, Coach Derek from All-22 Films, the YouTube channel. Does such a tremendous job over there with his All-22 film breakdowns. He's brought a couple of clips to share with us today to talk about something Mike McDonald's talked about a lot the last 2 weeks, and the marriage between the pass rush and the secondary, the coverage behind them, how it works together. We talk at times about how this team needs a dominant nose tackle, how they need a twitchier edge rusher that can beat teams one-on-one. You might feel differently after watching this today because it's how they all work in unison. And one thing he talks about today that I found really surprising and encouraging is there's a certain quality that this defense exhibits that makes them so good, and especially when you consider that they were missing Nick Emenwari and Devin Witherspoon, two players who exhibit even more of this certain quality. They were still able to go out on Sunday and do what they did against the Steelers. Coach Derek from All-22 Films joining me next on Seahawks Forever.
Welcome to the Seahawks Forever podcast. In-depth analysis on everything Seahawks. And now, here's your host, Dan Viens.
Check out the Red Hot Sales event over at Omaha Steaks. The Viens family's been eating Omaha Steaks ever since I was a little tyke. In fact, for my birthday a couple years ago, my older brother surprised me with a big case of their individually wrapped USDA certified steaks. They're phenomenal, but they don't just do steaks. They do juicy, mouth-watering burgers and chicken and franks and even desserts if you have a sweet tooth like me. Let me tell you a little about that Red Hot Sales event. If you go over to omahasteaks.com right now, they will give you 50% off all their most popular variety packs. Plus, for being a viewer, listener of the show, if you use the promo code FOREVER, you'll get an additional $35 off. That's right, 50% off plus an additional $35 off if you go to omahasteaks.com and use the promo code FOREVER. In the meantime, if you would subscribe to the channel, that's the only thing I'm going to ask you to do today. All the other links are down below, but the best way that you can support this channel and myself as an independent full-time content creator doesn't cost a penny, doesn't give you notifications or spam or anything else. Just click subscribe. About half of my regular viewers that watch these videos all the time aren't subscribed, but it is the best way because it tells YouTube, hey, more people like this channel, so we're going to push this video out for more people to see it that haven't been exposed to it before. That's how their algorithm works. So the number one most important thing you could do to help me as a creator is just click that subscribe button. I appreciate you doing so. Let's get to this. Coach Derek was kind enough to share some time with us today. I know how long it takes. Just did a show yesterday. If you want to check that out on the 3 most impactful plays from Sunday, building blocks for the future on Momentum Monday. And it took me hours to put a show together that featured 3 clips, and he does this all week long. So very gracious and generous with his time today. I hope you enjoy it. Derek, it's so good to finally have you on the show. I know we've gone back and forth before, tried to get you on here. I know you're a busy guy, so I appreciate your time. How you doing?
Yeah, doing good, man. Thank you. Like I was saying in pre-show, like just always thankful for opportunities to interact and try to share my views as far as what I see. And it's a fun group to watch. So creating film study videos about this Seahawks group is a lot of fun for me. So anyway, thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And everyone refers to you as Coach Derek. Before we get started, let your viewers know your background a little bit and kind of how you came to coach us all up on YouTube these days.
It's a long time coming in the sense that I didn't start out as a football guy, and I didn't start out as a football coach. Although I knew I wanted to coach. Originally, it was basketball. That's always my thing. I was one of those guys who played basketball every day of my life for maybe not every day, 320 days a year for 25 years straight. Backed into coaching and eventually around the pandemic was no longer coaching and had a lot of time on my hands like everyone else. And tracking some film study guys on YouTube and watching their content, started to think, maybe I could give this a shot. And my first probably 1.5 to 2 years was, very ugly. And I think I've deleted all of those videos so no one sees them, but here we are, and I'm trying to push the pace and make myself better with what I do.
Nice.
And so that's one of the reasons why I've tried to do film study videos for 3 different teams. I don't want to be a homer, even though I am. And I want to try to provide balanced film study critiques with the limited amount of time that I have, to offer. So it's a lot of fun, and it's going to be a blur, right? Next thing you know, it's going to be January and February, and there's only going to be 2 teams and then 1 team standing.
You call yourself a secondary guy. So we're going to look at the defensive side of the ball today. That Seahawks defense getting off to such a great start through these first 2 weeks. If it weren't for a couple of unfortunate plays on that last drive against San Francisco, they're probably 2-0, and that the defensive metrics look a lot better, and they're probably top 2, top 3 in just about everything league wide. Mike Macdonald recently has talked a lot about, and I love how he nerds out sometimes when he's asked the right questions. He's talked a lot about how whenever he's asked about the pass rush and whether he's happy with what he's seeing. And the Seahawks rank just about league-wide in just about every metric you can find near the top of the league in pressure percentage so far. But obviously their secondary is doing a good job of covering too, because the wide receivers are basically taken out of the game Sunday in Pittsburgh, just about virtually eliminated. But he talks about how they work together. And whenever he's asked about the pass rush, he says, well, it works in conjunction with the secondary. Whenever he's talked about the coverage, he says, well, it works hand in hand with the pass rush. We're going to start up front. And you just posted a video on Byron Murphy's performance on Sunday against Pittsburgh. Let's start there because you have the breakdown of it. And I'll link that for the folks down below if they want to watch the whole thing. We see this a lot. Defensive tackles, even the premier ones in the league, the Dexter Lawrences, the Quinnen Williams, for some reason, maybe it's just their bodies catching up physically to being fully developed. It takes them a year or 2 to find their traction and really develop and be able to succeed and kind of translate the skills that we see and the traits that we see in college into the pros. We didn't see a lot of that from Byron last year. He had to play a lot of nose tackle. We know that. He missed a couple of games with injury. He's playing more 3 technique so far, right? And we're seeing the fruits of that labor, 1.5 sacks. I think most people agree it was his best game as a pro. What'd you see?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, first of all, they have a lot of options in Seattle with the defensive line. I think they've got a big boy pass group that they kind of throw out when it's Reed, Williams, Mafe, and Hall, which I've got a play queued up whenever you want to load it up. But I think along with options comes a lot of positives and a couple of negatives. And what I mean by that is a lot of positives is, hey, if we've got a guy with a particular move, a great move, a hump move, a rip move, whatever, and a certain offensive lineman on the other team is susceptible to that move, we've got a piece to plug there and hopefully win, right? A higher percentage than we would if we put someone else there. So options is great. I mean, I even saw activity out of Nwosu in the Steelers game. I've got one of the plays that I'll show here. He's got a tackle kind of out in space. I'm just glad that they have so many guys to offer there. It's, clearly very different than like the Bengals, who've got one top of the line, top of the food chain edge rushers, Trey Hendrickson, or the Browns, Myles Garrett. They've got a bunch of good ones. And I think one really, really great player. I think everyone who watches my videos knows what I think of Leonard Williams. I think he should have been first team All-Pro in 2024. Yeah. And if not first team, second team. So I like the options that are there. The negatives would be, you fire up the film of Byron Murphy and he's playing his butt off in that game. And I'm like, why isn't he in on this 3rd and 7? Why isn't he in here? And then Jaron Reed gets a sack. So that's why.
Yeah. Yeah. And the pressure percentage has been really good so far for this team. And not necessarily translating the sacks. They don't tend to get home a lot, but for now anyway, is it enough just to get pressure?
Yeah. I mean, like Mike Macdonald said, and you kind of explained it goes hand in hand. And sometimes the coverage gets in the way of the quarterback, and that allows a pressure to become a sack that maybe shouldn't have, or maybe wouldn't have if the coverage wasn't so good. We're talking about the Seahawks, but 3 times in the first half of the Ravens game against the Browns the other day, Kyle Hamilton kind of jumps down on a receiver to the boundary, and Joe Flacco has to hold on to the football a little longer. So McDonald's absolutely correct. Obviously, I mean, he's a defensive savant. It goes hand in hand. Sometimes it flows, back to front coverage into the pass rush. The coverage, a real high quality coverage, can create a sack on the front end, and sometimes the rush makes the coverage look better, right? Your pass rush is super disruptive on a particular play, and that generates or creates an interception opportunity for someone on the back end. I think you've got a great group there. Like I told you before the show began, it seems to have they seem to have a real positive attitude, a real positive approach here. Things change if you end up 1-3 or 1-4. I don't think that's going to happen with the Seattle team at all. But my point is, they seem to have the right mindset, and it seems to be very, very collective on both sides of the ball, offense and defense.
Now, as you mentioned, you brought some clips, and this is going to be fun because you didn't give me a list of what they are. So I just want you to share a couple of your pass rush clips that you said you had here and show some examples of what they did that was so effective on Sunday.
Yeah, you got it fired up now. I'm onto a separate screen. So we'll show some pass rush stuff first. And I inverted a little bit of this to show the pass rush first and then the coverage second. Normally, the way that I try to approach film is all-22 or quote coach's film first, and then the end zone angles second. So I love this play because I really just hope Leonard Williams gets 13 or 14 sacks this season and ends up on that first team All-Pro like he should have been last year. But I think that Ernest Jones IV is just kind of occupying the right guard and trying to create a right guard / a running back and trying to create a 3-on-3 over here to this overload side. I'm amazed at the frame and the way that Leonard Williams is able to do this, meaning I think he's, exchanging with Hall. I do wonder if if there's a little bit of a mistake here. Both of these guys are winning to this side, and then Hall is going underneath. Kind of seems like maybe Hall shouldn't be there. But I love the fact that Leonard Williams is able to reach out and then grab Rodgers almost on the way by, counterclockwise. It's almost like he grabs him and then spins this way, if that makes any sense. First of all, is a good video coming through because it's only 720 for me, unfortunately, where I get the film from.
Yeah, no, it looks good. It reminds me, in fact, I made a mistake on the postgame show. I thought when recalling this exact play, I thought it was Hall, and in which case it would have been almost an exact replica of the sack that he had against Jared Goff in the Lions last year, the one-hander, if you remember that, where he did the same thing and just pulled him to the ground with one arm.
It's the violence that sticks out to me with this group and some of the film from Sunday. And look, I'm a Ravens fan, so I'm kind of happy when I see the Steelers get beat at their own game, which is intimidation, a little bit of bullying, some mental games being played. And I thought the pursuit, the aggression, Job was one of them. I mean, Job is like finishing plays with some real tenacity, with some attitude. So this is the one that I'm talking about where I've got the pass rush first and then the coverage. And what I'm trying to do, I'm actually working on something eventually where I can have both on screen at the same time. But it's a challenge to get that done. So anyway, this is Reed on the sack. It's a 4-man rush. Williams and Lawrence, that's an interesting duo, man, to see them together. The first time I saw this, I was like, this almost looks like they didn't plan this. But I've then settled on the idea that Lawrence is kind of looping around underneath of Williams. And then they get in Rodgers' way. And when you get the all-22 or the coach's angle film, you'll see, I think Rodgers is trying to get the ball over the middle of the field often against the Seattle defense. And I believe this is the play where he really misses someone up top. But it's one of the things that bothers me about football analysis is that people are really reactionary to screenshots. And so here's what I mean. So the running back's going to flow out to the edge. Let me get rid of some of that. The running back's going to flow out to the edge, and he's going to bring, I think that's Knight, 48 with him. The route combination down here to the top side, let me get those out of the way. The route combination down here to the bottom side, is going to be kind of like this levels concept, the outside receiver underneath, and the slot receiver is a little bit higher inside route or dig route. And on the snap, Rodgers is immediately looking over here. So I think he's just confirming over here what he's got. And so by the time that receiver ends up being open, and he is wide open here in a moment. Let me move this forward just a little bit. Because this safety is dealing with Metcalf. So you've definitely got some type of mix-up there in the coverage. But if we peel that back again, Rodgers had already looked over there. So that's his number one to that side for whatever reason. Maybe he's just looking there. And then comes back with his visual focus in the middle of the field where I think the route design is designed to get the football, like I showed, with the different colors. Nothing is there, and by that point is when Reed starts to win against the left guard. I have felt for a little while that the left guard for the Steelers is susceptible to some of these stronger guys at the defensive tackle position. Here's the guy running wide open up the left side by himself. But the pass rush is winning at just the right time, and that's kind of what McDonald's talking about. None of those 4 pass rushes would get a pass rush win, if you will, for the pass rush win rate column, right? Which I actually pay zero attention to. because some of those rushes are hard-coded or predetermined by the coaches. And so how can I apply a loss to Derek Hall or Boye Mafe when they're telling him, hey, you have to go B-gap, versus some of the more undisciplined teams where the edge rusher has a two-way go, if you will, and has really the freedom to go to the inside or the outside. Hopefully I said that in a way that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right, so this next one, later second quarter, I think it's Kendrick up here at the nickel. This is the dropped interception, or the one that hits him in the helmet.
Oh, yeah. Right in the face mask. A little Jamal Adams moment there for us all.
So it's a 3rd and 9, and I think Seattle's playing a pretty vanilla coverage, which you rarely get. Again, you've got 3 in-breaking routes at different levels for the Steelers coming from the top side of our screen. The running back is also checking here B-gap and then flowing out to that same side. Rodgers initially looking in the middle of the field, and Kendrick is sitting here, right in the window of this later in-breaking route. I don't know what Rodgers is seeing here. Thought he played really well against the Jets last week, he being Rodgers. As an aside, the physicality of the whole group, I think, is just exemplified by Job. I don't know what Seahawks fans thought. I have zero idea what PFF or any of those other services provided, but I thought he played his ass off.
They were a big fan of Job's performance. Yeah, he's coming out on top in all those. He's let's say he's far upper right quadrant in all the graphs that we're seeing today that are released.
I mean, just really cool to see, because there were some times last year where the film wasn't complimentary, all right, where things didn't look great, and for him to step in and play well here. Witherspoon didn't play at all, right?
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So for them to, I don't want to say patchwork it, but bring Kendrick in to play the nickel, and then
only been there
Job
2 weeks
to step in.
And I don't know that Kendrick has much of a history playing nickel. He was a starting outside corner for the Rams 2 years ago before he got hurt. So, yeah, I thought that was a great performance from him on short notice.
Had an interception, could have had 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're moving to the opening possession of the third quarter, and by my notes, the Steelers went. I wrote it down. I've got so much going on here. Went punt, field goal, interception, missed field goal, interception in the second half. Maybe I'm missing a score there, but I thought the defense for the Seahawks did a great job of just wiping them out. Yeah. And it's one of the things that I noticed about McDonald starting like mid-2022 into 2023 was, if he can stop or slow down your run game, you're really not going to survive in a whole bunch of 2nd and 8s or 3rd and 6s against the variety of coverages that his players are going to be able to execute. And as you saw on Sunday, it kind of really doesn't matter who's out there on the field to a certain extent.
Yeah, we even saw some Shaq Griffin.
Is he 23?
Yes.
Okay, I was wondering who that was. All right, got it. I think he's on right now, in fact.
There he is.
So 2nd and 6 in the third quarter. This is the opening possession of the third quarter. It's 12 personnel play action. It's a really cool play fake by Rodgers. I mean, like, nobody really does it like him. So it's a play fake to the bottom side of our screen, the left-hand side of the Steelers offense, and really kind of like a flood concept to the top side. Where he
fakes out, Lawrence has no clue. Yeah.
I mean, it's just the confidence that Rodgers has.
It's not even,
that's rare. Regardless of what you think about him, it's kind of fun to watch. I really want to call attention to Job on this play. I think that were it not for a Seahawks defender sitting in the window, pretty much, here, he's covering the guy in the flats, which I think is Jonnu Smith. He used to play for the Titans, went to Miami, and now he's with the Steelers. And I think Rodgers is just trying to get this ball to DK. But watch Job. He's trailing behind DK, obviously, so there's some separation there. But once the ball is not delivered to DK, watch the just ferocity and I'm going to go knock someone out attitude that Job is playing with. A lot of pursuit.
There's 5 guys coming at him right there. Yep.
Prerequisite to play in McDonald's defense, should be a prerequisite anywhere. But Job he's got a nasty streak to him. And I hope it works out, man. I hope that you end up with 3 starting level outside corners. Maybe 4 if Kendrick is playing well. I just love this play because Job goes all the way across the field and ends up making, maybe not first contact, but he ends up being there to clean things up, even though Jonnu Smith, I think, gets within 1 yard of the first down. It's a physical and violent finish for me.
That's one of those plays that really makes you appreciate All-22, because on the TV copy, you don't see that. You see Job making the tackle, but you just assume he came from that side. And that's a hell of a hustle play.
Yeah, he's again, I think there's some strengths and some weaknesses to what I do. And I try to say in the videos that I create, hey, look, you should go confirm with other people who do this and compare and contrast what they say, and even some of the metrics that I intentionally don't pay any attention to. But I will say this, there's plenty of times where PFF, which I loathe, to be honest with you, where I watch a player like a Job and I'm like, well, he really played well. And then sure enough, the PFF score really lines up with what I saw. So begrudgingly, I do have to admit that what I do, which has some limitations as well, if I'm only watching the film and I'm not doing advanced metrics, if it lines up to an advanced metric, I do feel a little bit of like, okay, maybe I should move a little bit further in their direction, even though I don't want to.
I feel the same way. I got to attend the Senior Bowl for the first time this year, and there were a lot of guys I obviously hadn't seen in person, let alone done deep dive tape studies on. And there were a number of instances where guys really stood out to me during practice that week that I really liked, and then come to find out, then they end up going in the second round. They're playing well as rookies. Like, okay, maybe I'm not wrong all the time.
Yeah. That's the one thing about what we do. If we're trying to actually put the film out there in a timely fashion, which means Monday or Tuesday of each week after the Sunday games, I love it because you're accountable. Someone out there in the world, if you say something stupid, is going to record it and then post it on social media. And so that sharpening of the sword, I enjoy. I enjoyed it when I worked in traditional media because, 40,000, 50,000 people read your story the next day. And if you make a mistake or, God forbid, you spell someone's name wrong, then that's a learning opportunity for you.
Yeah.
So got two more here. Okay. And I think this is in Nwosu, 7, right?
Yeah, sure is. Yeah, I think he only played 15, 16 snaps his first time back. And the only memorable play, so I'm excited to see what he does here. The only memorable play that stood out when you're watching the game on TV was when he lined up offsides. Yeah.
It's, and I think about, we had this thought about McDonald's defense in 2022 and 2023. There came a point in time where Ravens fans were like, is there anyone that we can't put in the game at corner or nickel or edge defender, and you're not going to see this 10 to 12 to maybe even 15% spike in the quality of their play? And I could name numerous players. We had post ACL injury Marcus Peters, who was a amazing player. You guys know that before his ACL injury. Yeah. I think in 2021, and we had him in 2022. Not the same guy, but Mike McDonald had him. And then 2023, we brought in Ronald Darby, who everyone thought was finished, and he had a fantastic season in 2023. Parlayed that into a contract with the Jags. My point in bringing all that up is McDonald's system almost seems to be plug and play. I hope for Nwosu and Job it is, but it's an empty screen down here. Rodgers quick getting rid of the ball. Jonnu Smith with Hayward, the other Hayward, leading out in front. And it's Nwosu fighting for outside position here. That's a monster of a tight end that he's going against, right? That's Washington, 6'7", whatever. And they switch it in terms of the way they block it, right? Washington peels back inside. Hayward goes to the outside. So they switch it, they invert it. And Nwosu forces the guy inside so that Job can funnel in between. It's 3-on-3 down there. You can see it quite clearly, right? Yeah. So Job fits in the middle. And again, a violent finish by him. Wow. I trust the McDonald's system with less starters on the field than a lot of other systems require, meaning he's able to get results out of guys who maybe aren't starters at extended exposure, if you will.
Let me tell you about the Sleeper app. It is the best sports app out there, hands down. I am not just saying that to you because they're a sponsor of the program. Absolutely love this app. You can play fantasy football, daily fantasy sports, and games of skill. And if you want to get in on that now, they're going to match your first deposit up to $100, 100% if you use the promo code FOREVER. Just a little example. We've got our Seahawks Forever Pick'em pool going here. About 31 of you in there with me. And as you can see, last night, nailed both the picks last night, had the Bucks and the Chargers both winning. It's a little dicey in the first game, but got it done 25-7 through the first 2 weeks. I don't know what's happened. I've never been good at picking games, but maybe it's just the luck of the Sleeper app. Also, the best live real-time tracking during games. If you can't get to a television, it's the best way to follow a game. Play-by-play, real-time. And with each one of those plays, you can react to it. You can chat with the community and bring everybody together through sports. And again, Any deposit that you make, they will match up to $100, 100%. If you use that promo code forever, terms and conditions do apply, legal in 25 states. But the other games, fantasy football and the Pick'em League, all of that, you can do anywhere from anywhere. Enjoy the Sleeper app.
All right, so last one, it's a mesh concept. And I'm pretty sure you get a hold here on the right tackle. At least I hope it's called. I think Derek Hall gets pulled down here as Rodgers escapes. So we're talking about right here. But I want to talk about the physicality a little bit. This is Julian Love, another one of my favorite players that the Seahawks have. And watch him collision DK Metcalf. Those little subtle things, I get it. A lot of people who only watch the NFL and only pay attention to pro football are going to say, well, that's a penalty because it's 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. Well, to a certain extent, as a defensive coach, I don't give a shit. Like, we just want to collision guys and make life hell or difficult on them, especially, right, if it's DK who used to play for your team and no longer does. It's a KO or a knockdown, and then Rodgers is trying to find something. Of course, yes, there is an open man in the middle of the field, but the pass rush, to McDonald's point, has kind of got there. They call a hold on, I think it's Faltano, for pulling Hall down, essentially. Rodgers escapes, tries to find someone here in the middle of the field. It ends up being, I think it's Austin, a low throw. They made life difficult for Rodgers, in my opinion, on Sunday.
Made him look his age, for sure.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, the angle you took here. And let me ask you a follow-up this way. Because ever since Mike McDonald showed up here, we hear a lot about intelligence, just IQ, how smart he is and how smart you have to be to play for him, and how difficult his scheme is. That at a certain point last year, mid-season, they had to swap out their middle linebackers because Baker and Dodson weren't getting it done. And then he had to scale back his playbook a little bit. Talked a lot this offseason about how he's excited to be able to dig into it because he had so much continuity, so many guys coming back this year. And so you think, okay, you have to be really intelligent to succeed in his system. But you have to be violent too, based on what you showed us here today, that's just as important a quality if you want to play in his defense, right?
Yeah, that's kind of why I know that maybe some would say, hey, some of those plays you pick, coach, they're kind of innocuous to me. I don't think so. The little added layers or little added components of violence, whatever percentage it is, it's important. It adds up. And this, as a Ravens fan, I know this. When the Ravens try to do the same thing the Steelers do, they try to intimidate you physically and they try to play mental games, especially in their home stadium. And whether it was the Renegade song thing that McDonald did,
that was great.
The way the players, competed early, I loved it. I thought that they out-physicaled the Steelers, defense to offense. What was it? 21 carries for 74 or 72 yards, something like that total for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, and half of that, more than half of it, Jalen Warren had that one long run. It's 41 yards, I think, something like that. So other than that, they shut it down.
He's a difficult player to deal with. People may not recognize it who don't have to play against the Steelers. We've struggled with Jalen Warren at least 2 or 3 times in his career trying to tackle the guy. Low center of gravity, very strong, and when he gets going downhill, he's a load to deal with. I to your point about the intelligence piece, not only is there an intelligence requirement, I think, to play in this scheme, but I think McDonald makes players smarter. Who are, maybe to use Madden ratings, maybe their intelligence awareness is an 84. I think they become a 90. If they're a 78, they become an 84, an 85. And maybe they're actually not smarter or more aware players, but functionally the output on the field becomes so. And it's something that I noticed in 2022 when we did a great job against Joe Burrow finally. And it was like, where'd this come from? And in the offseason, it took me a long time to really recognize what he was doing, switching coverages, making things look so different post-snap than they did pre. The players got to be bought in, like you said, to that requirement, and then also, bring in the violence. And I thought they did. I thought they were the more physical team on Sunday. I don't know what it looked like live because I was traveling and didn't get to watch it live.
Now, as you've mentioned a number of times, you focus heavily on the Baltimore Ravens, been covering them for some time, so you're obviously familiar with the 2 years that McDonald was there. This is a 2-part question for you. One is they've been able to do everything they've been able to do the first 2 weeks. I saw 2 different rankings today that they're basically the consensus seems to be they're about third, top 3 in the league in pressure percentage through 2 games. They're able to get that kind of pressure, and yet they're at the very bottom of the league in how often they blitz, right? How is he able to accomplish that?
Yeah, maybe I should have been more prepared to show, and I'll do this. Maybe we can do this another time, or maybe I'll hook something up and send it to you, or share it on YouTube if I get time. A variable 4-man rush. So out of your typical nickel personnel group, 4 rushers, 2 inside linebackers, and then the 5 DBs. Anyone could be part of the 4-man rush, but to be really simplistic mathematically, you're leaving 7 for coverage, and now your guys have just got to be able to get into whatever look he wants. I said this in 2022, maybe around week 11 or 12, and I'm not smart enough to be able to describe this. I believe he's got in training camp a cover 3 period, and so basically saying to the guys, for the next 8 to 10 minutes, however many plays that is, we're going to play cover 3. And whatever the blitz is, you guys are going to have to figure out who's going where, whether you're playing hook to curl, whether you're playing curl flat, whatever you're doing as a safety or a corner. And so that he's just repping as many times as opposed to a 10 or 12-minute period where you're trying to do cover 3, cover 2, Tampa 2, quarters, split field, man free, cover 0. I think that he's got a targeted period during the instruction, the install. So the players can get really acclimated with how do we adjust out of cover 3? How do we adjust out of cover 2? How do we adjust out of quarters? And that's the only way that my small brain can fathom how he's able to get so much installed. It doesn't surprise me, Dan, that through 2 weeks, they're really looking good from a metric standpoint. This to me is the difference between the 2022 Ravens defense and the 2023 one, the second year that he was there as a defensive coordinator. It wouldn't surprise me if you're a top 5 defense, you are right now, but I mean, by the end of the year.
I love that you say that because I've made that point several times. It's so kind of eerie how this resembles the trajectory that he had as DC in Baltimore. First half of his first season wasn't that great. Gave up 54, 55 to the Dolphins, I think, one week. And then mid-season, they tweaked Kyle Hamilton's role a little bit, right? Brought him up into the box more. They traded for Roquan Smith. Second half of the season, you saw it all come together. And then the second full season with all those guys coming back, then they really locked it in. And it was a historically good defense, being number one in a bunch of key categories. It feels like that's kind of
I agree.
Created here in front of our eyes, right?
I agree. Roquan Smith is Ernest Jones. It's all there. I agree.
And Nick Emenwari, who we only saw for 5 snaps in week 1, is kind of in that Kyle Hamilton role. And everything you just showed us and about the violence, potentially two of the most violent players that they have on defense didn't play on Sunday in Devin Witherspoon and Nick Emenwari. I know it's a small sample size, first 2 games of this year, but in what you've looked at so far, do you notice any tangible differences? Anything that you think he's evolved or added or tweaked since his time in Baltimore?
I'm not sure that I say I can. I guess what I'll say is it still looks like the system where you can kind of plug and play at the edge rusher spot, and you're going to be able to get 2 or 3 guys with 8 to 10 sacks in that range. Now you've got, or last year I don't think he had a player like Leonard Williams, in Michigan, in Baltimore, I just don't. Matabike had an amazing season in 2023, but there's another layer for Leonard Williams because, he can be a 9 technique. He can line up at nose tackle. He can line up at 3 technique. There's just so much that Leonard Williams can do. I mean, hell, he can drop out and get a 96-yard pick 6 like he did, last year against the Jets. I think you're still looking at a very similar structure. The only thing I would add here is if you could ever get the supreme version of Reek Woolen to play man into the boundary, then now you've got something that he didn't have in Baltimore, in that you've got a real deterrent from throwing. That's not what we're getting right now. It's wishful thinking, I guess, to an extent. That would be the part that I think could kind of separate. Total lockdown or shutdown corner back there over to the boundary. He didn't really have that in Baltimore. No one with that kind of talent and that kind of threat.
Yeah. Curious your thoughts on this too. Over the offseason, one of the continuous storylines that fans just would not let go of was, and I've talked about it myself a lot too, and with other guys, especially during draft season, it was a really good defensive tackle draft this year, and they didn't really dip into that. Riley Mills later on, but he's starting out on the PUP list. A lot of consternation among the fan base about not having a true stud nose tackle, right? Like a guy that you can really count on. They've been rotating. It was Quentin Bohanna off the practice squad being elevated week 1. This week it was Brandon Peely. I expect them to rotate those guys for a while so that they don't have to like sign one of them to the 53. Yeah. But they seem to be getting by. Is that being overblown a little bit? Is that really necessary? It's obviously a luxury you'd like to have, but do you need it? Do you have to have it in this system?
I don't know. I guess as I've gotten a little more into this and paid attention to 3 different fan bases, the Ravens, Lions, and then now the Seahawks, I kind of tend to think about if large groups of people who really, really care about something become so concerned about something, whether it's depth, and each team has their own thing. For the Seahawks, it's the nose tackle, interior I saw those depth charts, leading into week 1. Mm-hmm. For the Lions, it's their edge rusher spot. They've not addressed. It almost seems like every franchise maybe has their blind spot. Now, am I saying that this is Seattle's blind spot? I don't know, but if you had to say what is their blind spot, it looks like this is what it would be. For the Ravens, it's our interior offensive line. Like our guard play is terrible, compared to the rest of our roster. So I don't have the same concerns, to be honest with you personally, but I recognize that Seahawks fans do, and I don't doubt that it's valid from their perspective. I think Murphy, Williams isn't a nose tackle. Williams is whatever you want him to be on any particular snap. And I do think the McDonald's system thrives on that versatility, that unpredictability. And so I wonder if that's an element here for this group. You certainly don't want to be thin at the interior D tackle position, because you want to stop the run. McDonald's system, a falling off point is if you can't stop the run.
Yeah.
And you saw that last year at times. Unfortunately, the system becomes less functional, less effective when it's now 2nd and 4 a whole lot of times instead of 2nd and 7. And that to me is, I guess that's why maybe Seahawks fans were so concerned. I don't fault them for having those concerns. Personally, I don't have them because we haven't seen it manifest itself yet in 2025, but it certainly could.
Let's finish with this. What's the ceiling of this group? And especially assuming they get Amenawari and Witherspoon back, they both might be back as early as this week. It sounds like, does this have a chance to be the best defense in the league this year?
It's always such a wide umbrella, you know what I mean, for stuff like that. But it's certainly within their range, to use, math stuff. It's within their range. Some teams, their variance is, -40, really bad defense, to -8. That's the projection for like the Cincinnati Bengals, even though they've got Trey Hendrickson and some other good football players. Their range is skewed to the left towards the negative. I would say the Seahawks range, where they could possibly land, is skewed to the right. To use those same numbers, +6 to +28 or +6 to +35, meaning at worst floor, I guess, would be 6 above the mean. I think it's a really hostile group, and they're very physical from the standpoint. Well, the love play that I just showed you, the 2 finishes from Job. When you arrive at your destination on the football field on the defensive side, you've got to arrive with some attitude such that the next time those players come through that area, they know what they're going to get. That's Witherspoon. I mean, that's Witherspoon. It bleeds over. And I think it's an extremely physical, talented, athletic group. If they can stop or slow down the run, absolutely, Dan, the expectation should be a top 5 defensive group, in my opinion. I make no bones about it. I think that's where they should be if they can stop and slow down the run game. If someone can get the run game going against them consistently, then that takes that range and kind of, for that individual game, kind of skews it back towards, 0, the mean, if you will.
Yeah. Good stuff. I know the viewers are going to love it. Coach Derek from All-22 Film, let everybody know where they can find your stuff.
I've got a YouTube channel that, for you guys that are Seahawks fans, you get hopefully enough from me because it's about all I can do to push out content on 3 different teams. But I'm trying to push the pace for myself this year in 2025 on my YouTube channel. It's All-22 Films. I do have a Twitter page. I try to be active on there, but it's difficult to satisfy 2 platforms. And then I do have a Patreon/Discord for anyone who's interested. Seahawks fan, I think it's $5.50 or $5.25 a month to join. It's like a secure community for fans to join and talk about the games, the players, whatever, independent of trolls or people who aren't Seahawks fans. And I value that because the people in there, I think we got like 14 or 15 now, they prod me with suggestions and how to move over in this direction to focus on something, because I don't have the time because of what I do here and then also what I do professionally. I run a tutoring business, so I'm committed to that, and I got 20 clients. So my time is, once the school year starts, it's football and tutoring at the same time. It is full speed, coffee, and a lot of sleepless nights, but it's a lot of fun. So thanks for having me, and thanks for letting me talk about this Seahawks team, because I think it's a really good group.
Well, I appreciate you taking a little time for us. That tutoring angle certainly makes sense. We can see the teaching ability, and it's amazing how much more educated the fan base is now because they have access to things like this, and they can watch All-22 tape on their own. They can watch breakdowns like this. It's become so much more commonplace, and you can watch it on your phone, and you're a big part of that, Derek. I appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. I think there's so much content out there that for people to get exposed to. It's not just me, obviously. There's hundreds, thousands.
Yeah.
I totally reject the people who say, hey, fans shouldn't have access to the All-22. Wrong. They should be easier for them to access to, climb that mountain or that hill or that staircase as best they can on their own time. So I appreciate it, man, once again.
Absolutely. We'll see you soon. Thanks. All right. Thanks, you guys. Hope you enjoy this episode. I'm going to take Wednesday off. Just going out of town for a quick night, and then we'll be back a little bit later in the week. Sanjit T from the Football Scouts going to join me, and we are going to break down what he thinks of the Seahawks offensive line, especially the left side with Charles Cross and Gray Zabel. He has a certain word that he has used in conjunction with Charles Cross that I will let him tell you what that word is, but I think you're going to get excited about that. And then, of course, we'll preview the game as we get closer, and Seahawks Saints on Sunday at Lumen Field. Can't wait for that one. Follow me on Twitter at Seahawks Forever. All the ways you can support me and the channel are listed and linked down below. Until next time, forever and always go Hawks. Thanks for watching.